We really do appreciate Dan and Amy being a sponsor for this segment. And I'll now turn it over to Chris Corse. Chris, welcome.
Well, thanks, Jim. Tonight we have 6 modelers, so we will go ahead and get started on that.
You sound like you got a bad cold.
No, I've had something that's been coming and going for a while. I'm getting over it now, but it's just that after part.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, tonight's my build. Of course, November 23rd is today, and it is featuring you. And I'm your host. And up first, we have Martin Breckbiel. You up, Martin?
No, I'm not. I'm down.
All right. Looks like you've got 7 slides tonight.
Okay, I don't know where we're starting. Go with it.
All right.
Right. That's the starting point. I think I don't remember which is. Okay, that's just 2 views of the same cars, I think.
Yep.
And that's the brass one, isn't it?
That's it
So,
looks like brass.
Yeah. So this is. I have these 3 hoppers. Well, I'm not entirely sure. One's brass, 2 aren't, and I got this box of these for about $20 and thought they have potential for a lot of play value and fun. It's just going to take time with a torch and a bunch of details, because what you see is what I started with. They're pretty much empty of everything except the basic shell, and even then there's things missing like ribs and stuff. And you can see that one there is about ready to fall off. So a lot of fun with a torch. I use a little mini torch. I've gotten tired of waiting for soldering irons to heat up. So let's go to the next one. So I guess that's the car that I built out of that one. So all the everything you see has been added onto it. So everything, it was basically an empty shell with a lot of pieces missing. Well, everything missing, and now it's a completed 2-bay hopper with brake gear, ladders, stirrup steps, all kinds of grab irons and stuff, and a coat of paint. It's amazing what a coat of paint does, even if it is just black. And a load. And I think that one's actually gravel from a, whoops. Yeah, gravel from a, from up in Pennsylvania. I can't remember where it was. I mean, up in Dry Run. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Yeah, that's another lovely one. Bit of a mess. You see, it's got wood parts stuck into it. It's got a lovely bit of weathering on it. I can't replicate that. That's not going to be saved. So this one actually I had to strip all the way down to the metal. This is a Railcraft kit car from the 50s, 60s. These are tin-plated steel. They're not brass. So it makes it even more fun to solder them up. The bolsters on that were actually Walthers, old Walthers white metal ones that are somehow attached to the tin-plated steel with a piece of wood and some wood screws and all kinds of other stuff. So basically this got stripped all the way back down to the bare metal and brought all the way back up. And there's pieces missing and parts of the brake stuff had to come off, and it all got reattached. And all those grab irons got taken off and replaced with ladders. So let's go to the next one. I don't know what I turned this one into. I turned it into a Penn-Dixie Cement Corporation car. There you are. And that's got a real coal load in it. So it's basically the same story as the previous one. A lot of soldering, a lot of bits and pieces, lots of details. Add everything in, coat of paint, a real coal load over some foam, and some decals, some K4, and you have a nice little 2-bay hopper. Let's go to the next one while we're at it. Yep, that's the other Railcraft car, tin-plated steel again. This one actually still had the bolsters in it to some extent, but pretty much not much else. I mean, the bargain here of this entire purchase might have been the KD couplers. They might have been worth the $20, but the rest of this was just good fun and good play value. So it's a naked shell. You can do whatever you want with it. And what I wanted to do is rebuild it back out to being a decent 2-bay hopper. You can see over the end of that one, you can see the holes where they pre-punched them for the brake casing for the Atlas Ajax brake system. So, but this took a lot of grinding, a lot of, let's see, time soaking, take it down to the bare metal, and a lot of grinding with a Dremel and all kinds of milling tools to get all that really lumpy solder off of them. So takes a little bit of time, but let's go to the next one. Yeah, so that one became a Western Maryland car just for fun. Thinking this is a car I don't really need, but I'll paint it with a painted letter for something that somebody in my geographic area might find attractive. I thought it came out fairly decent for a Railcraft car. Yeah, so, you know, it's time with a torch, lots of little pieces, solder it all back together, soak it in some lacquer thinner, give it a coat of paint out in the driveway. The neighbors look at you very quizzically, and they want to know, what the heck are you doing? And another real coal load just for fun, because somebody gave me 5 pounds of real coal ground up for coal loads once upon a time, and I still have some left over. And there's the third of that trio.
Yep.
I don't know what the next slide is.
Yeah, that's actually it. That's your last slide.
Oh, very good.
Yep.
That's much better. There is a gondola that came with this trio, which we'll get to maybe next month, which is another fun exercise. And I'm done then.
Wow.
Mark?
It's pretty incredible seeing the beginning and the end. Huge transformation there.
Yeah, I thought it'd be, I haven't really shown people in the past, starting with a pile of twigs, building something up. So I thought this time I'd give you a before and after display of what's going on.
Yeah.
Martin, if somebody wants to do something like that, those are O scale, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where would you get all the parts, the bits and pieces that you need to complete that? Is there one source for those, or where do you get them?
Oh boy, is there one source? Not really. Not in brass. Actually, the brass ladders are probably old All Nation ladders, but you can get those from All Nation. All that brake apparatus and stuff, that's all precision scale.
Okay.
And, the stirrup steps, I made those from brass strip. That's I can't even remember who makes that anymore, but that's getting harder to find though, that brass strip stuff, small brass.
Yep.
But it's out there, it can be found. So are there any other questions? Jeff wanted to know about my torch. It's a standard little baby pencil torch you get at Home Depot or thereabouts. I think mine actually came from Amazon. You know, it's about somewhere between $12.99 and $19.99. It's El Cheapo brand. You just use the regular butane for a regular torch in it. Nothing special.
Cool. Alrighty, well, thanks, Martin. I always look forward to whatever you have to present, because it's always something really very interesting.
Well, we'll see you next month then.
Alrighty, and happy Thanksgiving there, Martin.
Yes, you too.
All right. Oh, sorry, we had one more. Forgot about this one.
Okay, there is one more. I thought you said 7.
Yep, I mismarked my slide.
Okay, so I think last month I showed the beginning of this. This is just this store building I've been working on that I started with a Frenchman Creek storefront. So I've started to lay out what's going to go on the inside. That a lot of castings, a lot of kits, little pieces from Banta and other places, and Berkshire Valley. And that big unit on the wall I made that one because nobody makes something quite like that. And the countertop is some, that's cherry. That's a little bit of cherry. I got that from a hobby shop that was closing out around here. And they had, Midwest makes it. They make, everybody thinks of basswood, but Midwest actually made walnut and cherry stock. So I grabbed some when they closed out the store thinking, I'll find a use for it someday. It doesn't go bad. It just sits in a rack. So yeah, this is all just laid out. That I don't think anything was actually glued in place yet. I hope not, because that clock does not belong on the countertop. But it's coming along. And next month, I'll give you an update on this as well.
All right. Cool. Any questions for Martin over the store here? All right. Well, once again, thanks, Martin, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, once again. Yep.
All right. Now we'll move on to Bob Davidson. You up, Bob?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You ready? Looks like you've got 3 slides on here.
All right, we'll start with the first one. I was looking, if you remember from last spring when I did a presentation, I'm modeling the part of the Gowanus Canal and an industrial area in Brooklyn. The upper left, you can see that this is a bridge that went over the canal. I'm not going to actually do it up on the trestles like that. But this is kind of my from my silk purse out of a sow's ear thing. So I had in an old box, I had one of these Atlas Warren Truss bridges, which kind of looks like what that bridge looked like. You see, I spent all of $3.79 for it. But it was too long. It's about a 70-foot bridge, and I needed to get it down to 48 feet. So if we go to the next slide, you can see what I did. There's on the upper left is the original kit piece. I actually cut out of the middle, working very carefully with a Dremel, and went around some of the plates and was able to remove the center section and put everything back together. The bottom view there on the right, the lower right, I added in a superstructure because there was none with the kit. So I had some evergreen large I-beams around and put together a structure there. And here you can see this is the completed unit. I was able to reuse the track that came with the bridge, just shorten that up. We go to the next slide. I'll be kind of fast. Yeah. So here you can see it together. I added in some guardrails. And then on the side of the bridge, I'm going to have, it's in an industrial area, so I'll have a large, it scales out to about an 8-inch pipe, 9-inch pipe running across that'll then duct down into the underground and service one of the industries along the canal. I think that's it. Just a quick little reuse of an old cheap kit.
Nice. Yeah.
Did some painting and weathering, obviously you can see on it. Did some rusting, and it'll fit in great with the rest of the layout.
Yep. Got a good repurposing of what you've got. So
Yeah, like I say, it's just for under $4. It was a good solution to what I needed.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Bob? All right. Well, thank you very much, Bob, and happy
Sure.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to all.
All right. Next up, we have Tony Dixon. You up, Tony? Thought I heard him earlier.
I know he was
having
here.
trouble.
He was having trouble getting in, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
He got back in, but he lost audio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. So why don't we go on and we'll throw him back into the mix at the end if he can get himself get his situation figured out. All right. Jeff Jordan up next.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
Good.
Good. All right. Looks like you've got 3 slides tonight.
Yep. Okay. This is picking up on the theme of a silk purse out of a sow's ear. That started life as a Bachmann combine somebody gave me that was broken. The end railings were gone. It was missing some other parts, and said, well, let's see if you can make something out of it. And so I took that as a challenge and took the Bachmann combine and decided it would be a work caboose. Though the photo doesn't show it too well, it started with that kind of purplish maroon color that Bachmann cast these in with gold trim. And so I sanded the sides rather vigorously to give them a really weathered effect. And a lot of, if you see it in person, it looks like really weathered wood. The end railings were replaced by really nice Wiseman castings he makes for the Bachmann cars. You just strip off the end sill and everything from Bachmann and put his end sills on. They look quite good. Blocked out a couple of windows to give it the tattered work car effect. And then I discovered Banta's made a cupola for this specific car. And so added that on. And the one change I made from Banta, he did give you a roof walk, but he wanted the roof walk to run down the side. I shifted it so the roof walk runs down the middle rather than the side. But so now we've got a work caboose for my work train out of a car I got for free.
Cool. All right, we'll move on next to the rotary snowplow.
The rotary snowplow.
I love the free. I love the free part of that, Jeff.
Yeah, when you can get that, grab it. The rotary snowplow. This, I wish I had a before picture for this. This started as the Athearn rotary snowplow, the blue box, but there's very little of the original Athearn rotary left other than the rotor. And even there, if you look, you can see I stripped off the Athearn grab irons, cut them off, replaced them with metal grab irons. And also the flanger is left from the Athearn model, but pretty much nothing else. Scratch built the sides out of styrene sheet. The windows and doors are Grant Line castings. This guy, incidentally, is HO scale, not ON 30. And then various other details are nut bolt washer castings, bits of wire. The hatches on the side are styrene sheet, leftover bits of ladder. And then you've got the tender. It's just off of an old Mantua locomotive that I had sitting around, and scratch built the cover over the coal. And it is a reasonable approximation of the DNRGW's rotary 00, though it, of course, was narrow gauge, and this one is standard gauge. Though it's inspired me now, I'm on the verge of another project to replicate this in ON 30. And so right now I'm hunting for parts that'll work for an ON 30 version, including finding somebody's, nobody makes an ON 30 rotor. So finding a rotor that'll be close enough and otherwise scare up the parts. But, it really conceals its heritage as starting as an Athearn blue box model. I think we got one more slide with some more pictures of it. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see the whole piece there, including the tender, which is basically just a tender I had lying around, and it had some steps on it, so that was fine. And has some detail on the front, as you can see. One thing you can't really quite tell in this picture is, as I was working on it, I realized with all those windows, it looked see-through. And of course, in the real thing, there was a great big boiler in there. And so I built a black view block that just goes down the center It's not a cylinder, it's just a sheet of plastic painted black. So you can see the shadow of a boiler in there. And if you look in from the end, I don't have a picture of that. I made just a very simple backhead. So you can, it looks like there's something inside the rotary snowplow to make it go. And then, oh yeah, the headlight is obviously a casting, but hand built or hand bent some of the railings, like the grabs for the doors and the drop style grabs on the rotor, or just some freight car style drop grabs that I had that fit in place, and replacing the grabs, cutting off the little plastic ledges and replacing them with grabs always adds so much to the model, and there's really not that much to it. Steady hand with a fine drill, and it just makes it look like there's much more detail there. So if I get it together and start working on the ON31, I'll show that up eventually. But right now I'm still trying to see if I can scrape up enough pieces to do it in ON30.
Yeah, I think it actually looks better than the one I was looking at. The real one I saw back in August, thing looked like it had been through hell, and yours actually looks a lot better than it does.
There's one sitting, and this was inspired by the one at Chama, New Mexico. And I had taken photographs of it when I was in Chama, and it also was in pretty rough shape when I saw it. But maintenance of way equipment, when it was in use, was kept in pretty good shape, because at the end of the season, it would go back into the shop and they would clean it all up. And of course, I don't have any snow on my layout, so this would usually spend its time parked on a siding somewhere in near the shops.
Yeah, great job on that.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jeff?
That is super creative, Jeff. No question about it. Starting with what you started with and building that's creativity.
All righty.
Jeff,
Okay.
Larry McDonald here. When you do your ON31, what are you going to use for the rotary blades?
Well, I'm shopping around to see what's available out there. There are some O scale ones that look way too big, and I'm looking at some various HO scale ones that I may try and enlarge a little bit. For example, you can see this one has got very little in the way of shrouding around the blade. And so I'm thinking with some sheet plastic material, I can make it look bigger by just putting more shrouding around it.
Right, yeah. I think they have some movable vanes or wings on those at the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also I did start with, I took and parked next to this an ON30 boxcar, and the ON30 boxcar is not that much more massive than this. So I'm thinking it may be a little bit of a diminutive rotary snowplow when I'm done, but it'll look of a right proportion compared to the body, which if you look at the photographs, the rotor sometimes is actually inset a little bit rather than outside of the body of the car. And so if I can find, I've got one on the way, if you remember the ancient Roundhouse Kit Bashers series, they did one for rotary snowplow, and it has a rotor in there that looks decent, and I'm waiting for that to show up. I may not use anything else in that box other than the rotary snowplow, but that's the hard part.
Yes.
Building the car body, some doors, windows, and styrene sheet, and you're most of the way there.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right. Next, we'll move on to the award-winning Jim Murphy. You up, Jim?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Hope coming in loud and clear, and that's an interesting. Let me preface this: no build along done for new Trex and new tracks modeling goes unpunished. That once you have done all that documentation, It's just really easy to just put the model and all those photographs and write-ups on the table and away you go.
All righty, looks like you've got 6 slides tonight.
All righty, well, we're gonna start with that one. As some of you have were aware that way back when we were able to do a Berkshire Valley Models business executive car, and we took the basically a LaBelle kit and modernized or a new reissue of the HO scale Berkshire Valley kit, and we proceeded to do a detailed build along, starting with all the pieces that were included with the kit, the pre-cut sides, and basically a bare bones kit. The old style LaBelle, we had to shape the roof yourself and add your own details. No underbody, your trucks included. It was back in the old days when you did, trucks and couplers were by the owner. Well, also interior detailing. And in order to show off interior detailing, well, you're going to have to illuminate it. So to bring it onto the layout in an illuminated manner, you added, and I can't remember which photos I've included, but you had to add electrical pickups, which were added to basically 50-year-old Central Valley trucks. So don't be discouraged. Yes, you can add modern electrical pickups to your trucks, transmit that power through a wooden kit model, making use of various wire parts that you've added underneath there, which are truss rods, and then take that power up to LEDs that you've made and to LEDs right up into the marker lights.
All right.
Also along the way on the lower left there, we can see some 21st century 3D printed furniture, which was not available years ago, and some 50-year-old cardboard partitions. So we have new and old technology in there, and we have some craft paper flowers even added onto the dining room table at my wife's suggestion. If you're going to have an executive, you better have flowers on the table.
All righty. All right. Next up, looks like your Nighthawk scene.
Yes, indeed. This is another the Nighthawks Diner restaurant build. This is from Wit and Wisdom Models, which provided an excellent fiberboard laser cut kit that consisted of the restaurant itself, the side buildings, which is the barber shop that appeared in another of Edward Hopper's paintings. The first, of course, is the Nighthawks. That was from 1942. The Sunday Morning, which is that barber shop building behind, was from 1926 painting. And taking those basic kits plus the 3D printed figures of the counter boy and the patrons late night with their classic expression of distance yet being physically close, all of that to put it together. And then taking it a step beyond, and that's the detailing of the interiors of the other buildings besides the cafe, and adding different types of illumination. On the left-hand side, you have conventional LEDs, which are the yellowish cast that gives a tungsten effect in the rooms. And the Nighthawks itself, you use brighter LEDs because 1942 was the first electroluminescent bulbs were put in New York City, first fluorescents. And above in the center of the alleyway there, the Nighthawk sign was made from a Miller Engineering electroluminescent kit, where it's flat panel lighting that's you apply your own decals on the surface of it, and you custom do basically a fluorescent sign that that's a flat panel sign that you can put up there. Also, little touches that David added to the Wit and Wisdom kit was the use of a mirror on the back wall there. So it appears as though the sidewalk between the two buildings actually goes off into the distance and turns the corner, adding that extra depth. So the basic kit, paint it up, and then add illumination, which really brings everything to life.
All right.
Here's a little bit more of the detail. Is that the traditional Nighthawks in the lower right, and that's where Edward Hopper, who was 6'5" tall, would have stood to get the perspective. And we give credit to John Armstrong, who actually back calculated the perspective angle on that, knowing Hopper's height, in order to produce his model, which appeared in Model Railroader in 1989, I believe, an O-scale Nighthawks diner, which was the inspiration for the overall model. And the 1926 painting in the background that was turned into the barbershop, hardware store, and the tenements on the second floor. And the next one is a larger view. Because the restaurant did not show an entrance, and this was part of Hopper's philosophy, he didn't have a way in or out. So in order to expand the building and make it look reasonable, I added an extra entrance in the front, which you see in this front. And instead of a plain wall in the back there, I added a hardware store. This was done with a pre-printed transparent slide from City Classics that sort of fit in there. And I added things like skylights and extra windows and openings and a fire escape at the top, just to add all those extra details. On the right-hand side is a factory building that was added on to provide a little more interest to it. And those lights are different colors, different hues, and they come on and off at different times. Those are lit with NeoPixels, and they are powered by an Arduino, and that allows you to program the on-off time of an individual room. There are 13 NeoPixels in there for the different rooms and lighting. You program the color, the intensity, the time on and off. So it appears as though there's actually motion and activity going on inside that warehouse. What's not shown, and because of copyright reasons, there is no music playing in that, but it does have an MP3 player that features the top hits of 1942. So it sets the era of the painting. And I want to take everybody that had an opportunity to see the model in person. I put toggle switches on the back and an invitation up front to play with the lights, so you could turn the lights on and off in the building. Especially in the factory building, you could get the lights to come on and off, as well as play the soundtrack while you were looking at the model.
Wow. That explains why you're an award winner.
Oh, it was a lot of fun working on that. And as I said, we spent a lot of times on the build along, but it was just such a lot of fun to be able to take all that. And for those that didn't have a chance to see the build along, to take that to a regional convention and share it with the folks there.
Tim, I gotta ask you this. I may be the only one here that doesn't know, but I'm gonna ask anyway. What's a NeoPixel?
It is, okay, you're familiar with LEDs, right, Jim?
Yep.
Okay, picture an LED that's actually 3 colors. An LED is usually white.
Right.
Now picture that same LED with 3 tiny little LEDs all in the same lens. A red, a blue, and a green. And for those of you that are old enough to remember the first color televisions were red, blue, and green. And by showing different amounts of light from each of the red, blue, and green tubes, or whatever guns they used, you were able to get 1,000,000 different colors to show through. Now picture that same color TV tube shrunk down to the size of a tiny little LED. And by using the miracle of Arduino and some really simple trinket programming, you put a string of them together like a string of beads. And you say, okay, pixel number 1. I want you to be half green and half blue. And I want you to be 100% brightness. And I want you to stay on for 5 seconds. Now, pixel number 2 is the next one down the daisy chain. But I want you to be red and blue. So you're going to be purple. And I want you at half intensity. And I want you to stay on for 30 seconds. And you keep going down from pixel to pixel to pixel to pixel in this daisy chain. And you program it with a little simple array in your Arduino. Plug it in, and then it's trial and error. You change the program. So you can essentially build a tiny little color TV into each one of these little NeoPixels. And how long it stays on and how bright is relatively easy to program. And you can do a whole town. I think you can have up to 50 of these pixels on one little Arduino trinket the size of a postage stamp.
Unbelievable. Thank you. Never heard of it before.
It's brand new. A few model railroad clubs have used it. Michigan and one down in Florida. I can't think of the name of the club that redid their layout, and they put a couple of hundred of these pixels in a downtown scene and just have amazing effects as you're going through town. You can go from day to night to twilight to buildings coming on and off and just telling a story as you go around. And if you put a soundtrack behind it, it gets really interesting.
Yeah. I heard you needed a shopping cart to take all the awards out of the convention.
Oh, it was a lot of fun, and say it's I like to encourage anybody, even if it was not that many years ago. I went to my first NMRA convention, and one of my buddies from the train club says, "Murph, why don't you put something in the contest?" Well, I'm not a contest modeler. I mean, I don't know what to do. And he says, you fill out a little application form. It's just a few write a few notes about the model, put it on the table and see what happens. Well, okay, I sketched it out and it was a pretty darn low score. That's all I can tell you. And the next one, I put another model on and I wrote it up a little better and I get a teeny bit higher score. Fast forward 20 years and I've got enough of those to put together an achievement program certificate.
Well deserved.
All righty.
A lot of fun.
We're not at the end yet. We still have more, but wait, there's more.
Oh, wait a minute. There's more. Now, this is a repeat. Now, this particular model of my station, which we talked about a couple of years ago on the show, I put on display in Charlotte. And because it had already taken a top place award in the Northeast region, where the state prototype station was years ago, I entered and won first place for structures. So you don't want to, you don't re-enter the same model, but this was put on the floor just for fun. And they put a number next to it so you can claim it to get it back out of the contest room. And we have a model. I guess most divisions or regions have a favorite model contest. And this happened to have a number next to it, and it was just sitting there. And again, this is lit up by LEDs. No Sandtrack in this one yet, but just it's a model of my hometown station. So I put it up there and put it on display only, no judging involved. But it garnered enough votes for a favorite model, and strictly popular vote, no judging involved, just whoever goes in there, one model or one vote. And so it won favorite model. So I got a plaque for that as well.
Cool.
Like I say, shipping card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this is the last slide. It's looks like more of the previous.
More of the station there, and that's again. And that did well because it's hometown, and I found the secret of doing winning a popular vote is do something with lots of people in it. First of all, model something you really, really like, because if you enjoyed modeling it, people are going to enjoy seeing it. So if you have fun with it, other folks will have fun with the model as well.
Cool. All right, that's some good advice there. Any questions for Jim?
Jim, what did you use for the floor in the station there?
Oh, that is glossy photo paper, and it's just printed with HO scale 2-foot by 4-foot marble panels. I was fortunate enough to actually have the architectural plans for that original station from 1883. From a similar station. It was the one up the road. But this architect, H.H. Richardson, was famous. He owned a granite quarry, which you see in the lower picture, a brownstone quarry, which you see in the lower picture. He owned a lumber yard, which are the building supports. He also had a marble quarry. He was kind of the first vertically integrated contractor in the world. And he was famous for his 2-foot by 4-foot marble tiles. And that's what you see in there. And it's just printed on glossy photo paper. So there's a nice wax finish on the floor, which you don't normally put in models as shiny finishes. But this is freshly waxed marble.
Nice. Cool. Any more questions for Jim? All righty. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Jim, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to all.
All right. Next up, we'll have Rich Wolfanger. You around, Rich?
Yes, I am, sir.
There you go. All right, looks like you've got 5 slides.
Well, there were 10, and there's a reason for 10, but that's okay. This is my rendition of the Saturday Workshop Ice House project. First and foremost, I would like to thank Jim Kello for allowing us to have this workshop on our included weekly segments of New Tracks modeling. And I would like to give credit to Heath Trollope from Canada, who provided several of us modelers with these ice machines. Now, this is my painted ice machine. In the background, you can see the original 3D print. I covered mine with Vallejo surface primer to give it some tooth before I added the extra paint. And the paints I used were Vallejo and some Floquil. Now, it took me 3 days to paint this, but I'll give a tip to people who have to paint theirs upcoming. I used a very small brush. I used a 10/0 brush, and I started on the inside and painted from the inside out, because if you start on the outside in, you're going to touch spots where you don't want other colors, and you have to repaint over them. And I had to do that several times. Now, that copper paint on there is Floquil copper, and it provided the best, I think, copper color for that piping. And the interior, I don't know if you can see that good enough. There's silver, and that's old silver. And then on that flywheel down below, that's gunmetal. And on that turnstile wheel to the back, that's gunmetal as well. And then the black on that one case in the front at the upper left photo, that's weathered black by Floquil. I think it turned out pretty good. I'm not sure exactly if I think those ice chunks at the bottom come out of that unit where you can see brown on the bottom where they're sitting on top, but I'm not sure exactly how that works. I looked on Wikipedia, but I really couldn't figure that one out. Now, the rest of the pictures that show my completed diorama, I just want to make sure that Paul Egri gets a go, because he provided cardstock modeling pictures that are in zip folder on the New Tracks modeling website. And if anyone who wants to build that isn't building the ice house diorama can go there and get that. And other people on here have seen the ice house being constructed during our workshop program. There are other folks that showed up for specific segments. I'd like to give a thank you to. Greg Cassidy was on several. Will Zadnick uploaded photos and project drawings to our website. Father Ron is building a model as well, and he told me tonight that he's not finished with his yet. And I believe Larry McDonald was going to do one later on. No, I don't know if anyone else is. But when Chris Blackmar, who started this program, asked me to join to be included in some segments, I wanted to make sure I was available to him. He's like a mentor to me. Actually, he's like a brother to me. But I also would like to mention that he is still ill. Even though he's traveling this week with his family for Thanksgiving, he wanted to thank everyone who came on the show and were allowed to model with us as well. And if there is a chance for a future program, maybe we can do that later on down the line. That's up to you, Jim. So if you want to put up some more pictures, I'll show my model. No? Can you zoom in on that top one on the left?
I cannot.
Okay.
Not in this mode, so.
Okay, that shows the
Maybe I can, hang
overall.
on. How's that? Did that work?
Sure. That
Okay.
shows the overall, looking straight down on my model, that brick driveway. Now, I didn't construct my model like I showed in the original drawings that are uploaded to the website. And that, for that reason, is when I model, I always change things in between, and that's just me. But I did the main building on the upper right here, the same as the drawing, and then I added a dock there. I also added a front dock with a porch that went around two sides that's not on the drawing. And that, I'm not sure what you want to call that, tramway over the breezeway there that hooks the two buildings together. I added that with two railings on it. And instead of building that upper higher building that attached to the main structure, I added the stone building as an ice storage unit. So the ice will travel along that tramway into the window, and then it goes. I used an old coal chute. You'll see that, I think, in the next picture.
All right, let's see here.
I put a coal chute in there on it. So the ice goes down that ramp to the left, and then it goes down a lower ramp to be stored on the floor in a cold air unit on the floor. I didn't know how to really build that, but I guess it worked for me.
All right.
And I added that, well, that crane on the porch, I scratch built that too. That's pinned at the top and the bottom, so that moves around. It's not glued down. And some of my doors aren't glued in either. I can pull those out. I did want to mention that tar paper on the roof on that porch on the main building in the front. I chose something different this time. I used brown coffee filters that I got from Dollar General and covered them with Floquel Boxcar Red. And then I was going to go over that with some Boxcar Red colored brick pigments, but I decided against it. I kind of like the way that looks, and in person it looks a lot better than it shows here. It looks like a dark brown here. You can go to the next one. And that shows the other side of that porch. I wanted to make an ice truck. Now that ice truck was a German-made model. It was a Mercedes. I clipped off the hood emblem and sanded it flat to make it look like a radiator cap. Oh, and the place is closed. See that gate in the front? That's why I didn't show any workers, because there's only one guy in the main building sitting at his desk. I don't know if you can see him. It was probably in that first picture. Oh, you'd have to zoom in on him. He's sitting at his desk.
Yeah, he's sitting right up in the corner there.
That building that shows the ice house on the upper left, or the ice machine
Mm-hmm.
in the upper, no, that other picture. That ice machine over in the corner is a refrigerator. So when they get too much ice and it's stocked up, they can stick it in the fridge so it won't melt.
All right.
There are some more details I can add to this, but I wanted to make sure that I got this on here before the end of the year. And I want to thank everybody who was involved with this program. And
You did a beautiful job, Rich. You really did. You ought to be proud of it.
thank you, Jim. I also like to thank Chris Course for putting my pictures on here and putting up with me. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that everyone has a nice Thanksgiving as well.
All righty. Are there any questions for Rich?
Yeah, Rich, what did you make the ice out of?
Oh, that's 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch clear square stock that was in the Fine Scale Miniatures kit Ice House 50 by George Celios. That was in there. It was a piece about 1.5 inches long, and I took my razor saw and actually made a jig to cut that, because if you try to hold that in your hand and cut that with a razor saw, it's not going to saw directly across. So I took 2 pieces of 1/4 inch wood, basswood, and glued that to another board, and then I put the ice in between the 2 boards and then cut it with my razor saw. Well, I emailed a picture of that to Chris, and he sent me back a picture of, I'm surprised you don't have any of these. And I said, what are those? And he said it was a key set. He says you can buy them at any hardware store for like 20 bucks. And what they are 1/4 inch square steel rods. They're about 1.5 inches long. And he says you could have glued these to your board and then cut your ice. And I said, that's great until you get to the last piece, and how you gonna cut that, because it's not gonna hold in there. So I cut across my piece and the wood, and it cut it perfectly. So I didn't have any waste.
Oh, they came out great.
He said he was gonna go to Amazon and buy some 1/4 by 1/4 clear chunks, and they were 4 feet long, and you get 13 pieces for like $11. And that's quite a lot, though. I wouldn't know what to do with most of those. But when I searched that on Wikipedia, I found out that ice blocks, see, if I cut those at 1/8 inch thick, so 1/8 inch 1/4 by 1/4 is about a 300-pound block. And then on Wikipedia, they mentioned that ice wasn't always just clear, it was also milky white. So I had some extra pieces of square hydrocal that I had used for something else about that size, and I cut those up, and then I covered those with regular craft paint. It was a satin color, so it had a shiny effect to it, and they turned out pretty nice, but I didn't put any of those in here.
Yeah, Rich,
Yes.
it's Pat here. I just wondered if you could take some of that clear plastic, and if you sanded it with a 4-aught sandpaper, real fine sandpaper, you get that milky white system on there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we were talking about that last week, Chris and I.
I think that earlier suggestion of spraying it with dull coat might work also.
Mhm.
So yeah, the ice is generally cloudy.
Yep.
Because if there's anything in the water, we got a reverse osmosis system and connected to the ice maker. And the thing that was amazing was the ice was actually clear. And that's because it's taking all the metals out and stuff, the reverse osmosis. But if you take the water we have without the reverse osmosis and just make ice out of it, it's cloudy. So it's dependent upon the water.
In that upper picture that you have shown right now is a chunk that's sitting next to that crane. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that one, but I put the hazy top up on top so it's viewable, but on the sides it's clear, and I didn't sand the sides. We talked about sanding the sides, but I didn't do it. But in HO scale, this model is so small that you can't tell. I can't tell looking at that.
Yeah, it looks great for what you're looking for.
And another thing I'd like to mention is I have a hard time placing details. I'm not sure what to put where, but like Al Judy, I don't glue anything down either. None of these details are glued down. And the reason why I don't glue them down is if I have to build another model and show it somewhere, then I'll take these details off and put them on another model. No one's going to know the difference. Plus, it takes forever to paint details in it. It takes longer than it is to build a structure. And that,
Great.
that
Great job.
railing on that tram, I broke that off 5 times. So I glued it there and didn't touch it again.
I feel your pain on that.
It's so fragile. Those are 1x2s and 1x3s. I think the biggest board on there is the top of the railing is a 2x4.
Yeah, I think you were talking about the truck earlier. Whose truck is that?
It was a German-made model. Just a minute. We're gone past our 5 minutes. I don't want to upset Jim.
That's all right.
It's all metal construction, isn't it?
It's RU ROSKOPF.
Hmm.
And it's made in Berlin.
Hmm.
But it's 187 scale, and it was a Mercedes truck, and there's only 2 front doors on it.
Huh.
And the 2 back doors. I actually took Woodland Scenics lettering and put ICE on the back. And then I was going to say, if anyone mentioned that, I was going to say, well, I should have said nice, but the end fell off. The paint on that truck, when I bought that truck, the whole top was painted white and the whole bottom was painted black. And the paint you see on there looks a lot brighter than it normally is in real life, because it looks like a darker gray black. The paint I used was Vallejo Heather Blue, and that's a really nice color. But I did not go over that with any. I was going to go over it with a black wash, but I didn't do that yet. But actually, it turned out pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then I rusted up some of the top and the fenders. Was just using a little bit of Vallejo light brown, or it was a Reaper light brown mixed with a little bit of windshield washer fluid.
Beautiful job.
No, I appreciate that, guys. Wait till you see my next build. I'm gonna scratch build Foss scale models Atlas Gorge.
Wow. All right. Are there any questions for Rich? All righty. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Rich, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. You too, and to everyone else.
All right. And now I think Tony Dixon is back, so we're going to try to backtrack and go back to him. Oh, there we go. You with us, Tony?
I'm here.
All right, there we go. All right, looks like we've got 4 slides for you, and sounds like we're missing some, but we'll I guess we'll play catch up on that for next month. I apologize for, well, I didn't get the pictures, but anyway, we'll make it right. All right.
No stress. These are interior shots of the scale house and office that went on Chris Steve's 2nd place National Farm Toy Show display for this year. Show was held the first weekend in November. A lot of 3D printed parts in there. The building started out as a HO scale Rick's Kit Basher series 2-stall engine house with the walls shortened. It still uses the Rick's windows and then the 3D printed doors. Interior scratch built and lined with evergreen styrene for some of the paneling and whatnot. Just about every detail you see in there is 3D printed. couches, printers, radios, seat testers, you name it.
So according to Murph, the key to getting first place is you got to have more people in the model.
There was actually quite a few figures in and on the display. It was a tough competition this year. The winner was actually a robot dairy operation. That was a beautiful model, and it was tough competition. They had something like 13 people in the adult small scale competition, which is basically 32nd, 64th, 87th, so on, anything smaller than 32nd scale. But the bulk of those being 1/64th S scale.
Alrighty.
That's the wood house in addition that's went on the display as part of the feed mill side. The main wood house is a kit, styrene. The manufacturer of it eludes me right now. The grain bin is by Standy Farm Toys, and then it's detailed up with some evergreen channel for the stiffeners on the outside, the bin fans, and safety cage on that's available from Farm Factor 3D. The catwalk and conveyors are available from Circle C Farm Toys. And are all 3D printed.
Very nice. Alrighty.
This is the dump pit area, flat storage buildings over by, which would be on the same side as the mill. I wish the other pictures had actually came through, but that's all right. These again are a couple of Rick's Kit Basher kits. I do not remember what the kit started out as, but I don't think it really matters because, yeah, they were kit bashed into a couple of flat storage buildings. The grain leg is, again, a Farm Factor 3D. The pit, which the bar grade actually comes off of and has full detail underneath. And the ground conveyors, again, are Circle C Farm Toy parts and are all 3D printed. The truck is a custom using die-cast for motion pieces.
Cool. Alrighty, and I think this is our last slide for you.
Yeah, and there was more that went with that. With the blueprint, there should have actually been a 3D printed version of what's in the blueprint. That's a continuous mixed flow grain dryer from Chief Industries owns and sells it, but it's a Caldwell brand dryer. And there's a 3D printed version that I drew up and printed out that's based off of those blueprints. And then the other was just some signage details on the outside of the mill, which there should have been a third picture there again that showed the overall view of the mill.
All right. Thanks for sharing there, Tony, and have a happy Thanksgiving.